All right, thank you very much for keeping it KBC just in time for the next interview this morning. It's all about matters politics, what has been happening. And this morning, our first focus will be on the Building Bridges initiative and the Punguza Mizigo. Well, even as we talk about this, remember the High Court stopped the county assemblies from debating the Punguza Mizigo draft bill. And according to Justice James Mwaka, they stopped the party from presenting the proposals to the speakers of the National Assembly, that is Justin Muturi, for debate pending the determination of two suits challenging the process. We shall be giving you more detail even as we continue with this discussion. Remember, the argument is that the IEBC made a mistake in approving the 1.2 million signatures that were supporting the initiative without verification to confirm it indeed that they were genuine. We shall be putting this and much more into perspective this morning to help me understand, even to help us in this discussion. I'm joined to my extreme left by one Murkomen Kanda. He is the Jubilee political strategist. Karibu sana Murkomen.
Thank you.
All right. And to the middle there is Nathaniel Akadima. He is the ANC Youth League spokesperson. Karibu sana Nathaniel.
Thank you, thank you.
And next to me, Billian Ojiwa, the National Youth Chairman of Movement for Development and Growth. That is MDG.
Yep.
Karibu.
Thank you.
Keep the hashtag going on Twitter. Hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. Tag me at Ram Maguko, my colleague's handle at Jane Wamboi. Our official handle is at KBC Television. Let's keep the tweets coming in. Let's get the show going on. First things first, do you guys support the Punguza Mizigo? And do you believe that at some point there are irregularities? The Member of Parliament, Tom Mutende, said Punguza Mizigo must fail. Your thoughts?
I support Punguza Mizigo. If you look at the trend of what is happening in our country, the wage bill is so high. I don't think that is the only way we can cut the wage bill, but I think it's appropriate. We are kind of overrepresented, and if you see what is happening in the counties, if you see what is happening in the National Assembly, there's no serious representation. If we can cut that down into now serious representation, I think will help this country a lot.
So it's all about representation that you're cutting down.
Yes.
But there's one aspect that came out in one of our leaders, the ANC youth leader, your party leader. He said that we should not confuse. Punguza Mizigo is not synonymous with Punguza representation.
Thank you, Ram, for having me. First of all, my party leader has not taken an official position on this matter. Especially, he has been agitating for the issue of corruption. You know, what my brother has just talked about is the issue of Kenyan being overrepresented. And he has said that he supports the Punguza Mzigo bill. And if you listen to the statements of my party leader, when he says Punguza Mizigo is not synonymous, meaning it is not equivalent or it's not equal to Punguza representation. But he has added a rider and said that the issue that should be the center of focus is the issue of reducing corruption or doing away with corruption. That is the shortest route of reducing the burden of the high cost of overrepresentation. Yes.
I remember that he had faulted Punguza Mizigo bill. He was arguing that it does not address wastage of public resources through corruption. Well, that is also one aspect. Does it affect corruption as we know it? Remember, in their draft bill, they're talking about how they will deal with corrupt individuals based on their proposal, hence affecting the budget of the country. Murkomen, your thoughts on this?
Thank you very much, Ram.
Karibu sana.
What I want to say is Jubilee Party has not taken position on this matter, but I think they will speak. But what I want to say as an individual is that I don't see any problem with Punguza Mzigo. Personally, I support it. And Punguza Mzigo is in the line with the spirit of Kenyan 2010 Constitution. It supports devolution. It brings more resources back to the people. And that is the devolution we want. So Punguza Mzigo is there to make common mwananchi enjoy what the national government have been enjoying for a long period of time. So in terms of corruption, you cannot say punguza mzigo. We change, or because of punguza mzigo, or because of other things, that we can fight corruption on aspect of the constitution. It is only we strengthen constitution.
It will strengthen.
We strengthen constitution in terms of fighting corruption. But on the issue of punguza mzigo, we support it.
All right, but could there have been irregularities in obtaining the signatures? The court was faulting IEBC.
I'm not so sure. I was asking myself because when ODM were conducting their the signatures, were trying to get 1 million signatures. They were all over the place.
You're talking about Okoa Kenya?
They were Okoa Kenya. They were all over the place. You could see them visible. You could see them having stations even in my constituency. But now for the Punguza Mizigo, I didn't see any. I didn't hear any. But I think it's a good thing. It's getting the traction from the people, and I think they really worked on what common wananchi wants, and that is why most of the people are relating with the Punguza Mizigo. But
should we be waiting for BBI?
Now, Ram, I want to come in and I want to take the line of thought, because I represent a political party here. The Punguza Mizigo bill, first of all, as much as there are aspects of it that are popular with the people, especially on the issue of overrepresentation, in comparison to other jurisdictions in the world, because Kenya is one of the most overrepresented society in Kenya. And then if you look on the other aspects of the Punguza Mizigo bill, on the issue of removing the yoke of incumbency, a presidential incumbency from the ballot by having a one-term president,
7 years,
7-year term, that is a good thing. When we don't have an incumbent on the ballot defending, it will reduce the pressure or the premium Kenyans are placed on the presidency, especially on an incumbent who is defending for the seat. In African context, it is always almost impossible removing an incumbent because we have not matured our democracy to that extent. But
it's
I have
also
two queries.
addressing the corruption issue, which has been a big problem. We don't know how to deal with the corrupt government officials, but now if we have a well-written down procedures on how to deal with these guys, will really help Kenya, because even if you go to the courts, they don't know how to handle the influential personalities here.
But I'm not sure of that. The problem in Kenya is that it's not that we don't have sufficient laws, as my brothers are saying here. We have more than enough laws to fight corruption. But the point is that our moral fabric has not been to that extent where people have the goodwill of having leaders of integrity to steer the country forward. Let me come back to before my friend diverted my attention. There are two things here. The Punguza Mizigo bill did not have as maximum consultative process to have many views on board, and someone will want to imagine that it's just a few people, maybe 1 or 2 people who sat in a room. They drafted a bill that was not consultative and found signatures online, and they were able to go to IEBC. No, the signatures were being signed online. I saw that thing circulating online. And because IEBC has its own politics.
You'd say the signatures are not credible?
I don't think the signatures were credible. Because I think I read politics of IEBC. Currently, IEBC has 3 commissioners. And we have a deficit of 4 commissioners. And these 3 commissioners have been able to form a clique. They don't want to leave office. Probably, you don't know in Kenya, the term of IEBC does not last past 1 election cycle. That tells you that these commissioners who are in office, probably, they want to reinvent themselves, because after every election, the commission is not always given enough money, or the commission is always forgotten until another election. So the commissioners could be passing a message to the country that we are still in office, and we will be, because it is IEBC that will be in charge of any referendum process. So I am just reading politics of IEBC, the commissioners who are in office trying to reinvent themselves and keep themselves busy. But I don't think they acquired the signatures.
Ram, what I want to say is we should not focus much on IEBC and the signature. The IEBC verified the signature, and they say that Tatu Alliance met the credentials of 1.2 million.
Well, they're arguing that the credentials the signatures were wrong.
Who is arguing?
The provision of the law, Article 257 of the Constitution, amendment of the constitution can be the law, the constitution can be amended through popular initiative. So we cannot say it was an individual idea, but as long as it has met the credentials, it has met the threshold of the law, then it qualifies to go through the county assemblies, and the law can be amended, introduced into parliament.
So as long as it's just 1.2 million,
Not just
it doesn't matter how you
no,
get the
no,
1.2 million?
No, it is not how, does not matter how you get 1.2 million. But IBC itself, I think IBC is an independent institution. Yes.
No, Ram, there's something that we are forgetting here. As much as the Constitution under Chapter 16 has allowed for the amendment of the Constitution, especially Article 255, 256, and 257, through popular initiative or parliamentary initiative, let us not confuse that two people can sit in a room and come up with a law without consulting. Because amending the Constitution, you are affecting the lives of generations. It is not an easy thing. And then amending the Constitution has a huge budget implication. Therefore, we should not just assume and limit it to a few people. But here are my thoughts. I don't think the Punguza bill will go through. I don't think it will go through past many county assemblies, because Third Way Alliance do not enjoy the numerical advantage other political parties enjoy. If today ODM issued a policy position that the party is not supporting Punguza Mizigo bill, like they have already announced, if Jubilee Party, where it comes from, issues a communication that the party is not supporting the bill, trust me, it will go nowhere, because most of the MCAs have their own personal interest. They will not want to be at loggerheads with their political party when they still want the party ticket in 2022. I'm telling you, it will not go anywhere.
So because they don't have any person in the
It will not go anywhere. Our democracy,
in the whole country, because they don't have any representation
Yes.
for MCAs, they are likely to fail.
that's what
In your
call
opinion.
party loyalty. Party loyalty. It will not go past even one county assembly. If it goes through, it will be a miracle. I'm telling you, people pay loyalty
Yes.
to their political parties. That is how our,
What he's
our
saying-
politics is structured.
He might be saying something. But what we want to talk about is devolving resources to ground.
And that's what
Devolving
the
resources.
and that's what the
And that-
MCAs
and-
wants.
And that is what MCS wants. So now, decision will come in between, should we have resources or should we be subject to our party leaders? Should we serve people or should we be subject to our party leaders?
So that's conflict of interest.
That is conflict of interest.
But
now
then
what
why
comes
were
in-
they elected in the first place? Because here we're talking
Exactly.
about
That is the
service
point.
to the people or to your
To
party.
your party. Are you serving your party or you are serving the people? If people on ground today decide that I should be there, then nobody should. I can be elected in a different party, be it independent, be it a different political party, where I will not be subjected to ideas that does not comply or does not reason with those of the people on ground. So MCS now will go to the resources and they will vote for this thing. And let me tell you this, if MCS today, if county assemblies, half of the county assemblies supports this bill, my friend, we are going for referendum.
Rama, my personal opinion. One, I think, you know why the big political parties are taking the hard lines? It's one, they were not sure that a small party like the Third Way Alliance would be able to mobilize over 1 million signatures. Then two,
Is it that they were not sure or they just believed
No,
and they were 100% sure that these guys will never get 1 million?
that is what they were sure these guys will never get 1 million. But you know what? One thing that the Third Way Alliance are doing is they really articulated issues that are relating with the common mwananchi. So if you look at most of the things that they've highlighted what we relate to, and that is why it's getting attraction, why the big parties are now starting to block them from getting into the county assemblies. But it's what wananchi wants. So I think what we should now look into is not looking at it as the Third Way Alliance thing. We should look at it as
Yes,
Kenyan.
yes.
Do we need change? The things that the Third Way Alliance are highlighting on the Punguza Mizigo, are we relating with them? How can we work on it as a country so that we are able to have this conversation, and not just have this conversation, but try to adjust to what the common mwananchi wants?
Nathaniel, you had said earlier on that you believe that it will fail.
Yeah, I
And,
believe.
your
Without-
statement is-
Based on facts.
No, without really looking into the issues, is they don't want. I think there's a two-sided story to the Punguza Mizigo, because we know the BBI is coming, and if and his party is part of the BBI.
No. That is not an official statement.
Okay,
Anyway,
but still,
yeah.
make your point.
So they feel threatened by the Third Way Alliance because they did their thing very fast, and they didn't use any how do you say, they didn't use any public resources to do this, to collect the signatures. But the BBI has been using public resources to conduct the have questions, have sittings, and political parties have been participating on the BBI. So what their fear is that most of the items that are highlighted on the Punguza Mizigo bill and what they are about to give us on the BBI might differ. And what we know and what we understand, and the speculations going around is that the BBI wants to add other positions, and the Punguza Mizigo
wants to
reduce
reduce the number of positions.
Yeah.
But now, Nathaniel, do you believe they will fail because they don't have representatives in the county assemblies, or because their idea is not going for the Wanjiko's interest?
If you look at
Is it because of the content or the number of representations
they will fail because our politics is structured along political parties. It is unlike Southern Sudan, where politics is structured around how many people which leader can marshal army troops and go and overthrow Salva Kiir from power.
So even if
So
they
in
have
Kenya,
the best for the interest for the Wanjiko, they will still fail.
there are some proposal in that bill that is attractive and that makes a lot of sense. But there are also proposal in that bill that are quite unreasonable.
like
Very quite unreasonable. Like, for
Like what?
example, the issue of converting the constituencies into wards. You know, you cannot have 290 wards in Kenya. That is quite almost impossible. You cannot have, you cannot reduce, he is converting the counties into constituencies. That is quite almost impossible, because you know how our politics has competing
It
interests.
does not make sense according to you.
No, according to the Kenyan situation,
Yes.
in fact, people want more constituencies to be added.
politicians.
Because of the tribal lines, the tribal linings. But there are two things here. There's something I want to mention. The process of making the current constitution, the 2010 constitution, started way back in the early 90s, just immediately after the multi-party democracy. And that process was aborted along the way until 2005, when we had a national constitutional conference that brought all together the multi-stakeholders. And it is, in fact, Boma's draft that was a result of that conference remains one of the best products the country has ever had. Therefore, the point that we want to make is that the Punguza Mizigo bill was not as consultative as possible. I just wish they were able to carry out more public consultations before they drafted the bill and took it to IBC.
All right, let's
Because
talk
at this stage, you cannot amend the bill, you cannot add a proposal, we can only take it as it is to the people.
Let's talk
If
about
it
what
passes
happened.
the county
Let's talk about what happened in the court. And I remember Dr. Kurokot has insisted, and I think he made a statement yesterday, that the petition to block county assemblies from debating on the Punguza Mizigo bill is politically sponsored.
Definitely.
And would not see the light of day. That those people opposing the bill are the enemies of the people. Is it politically
That is not
sponsored?
true.
is the question.
That is not true.
It's
But
not
there's something called party loyalty. For example, I'm a member of ANC party. Assuming I was an MCA elected on an ANC ticket, and my party has taken an official position that we are not supporting the Punguza Mizigo bill, there is something called party discipline.
But I thought
You must
said
be
your-
loyal.
Your party
Let
has
me say
I
this.
see. Let's give Murkomen
No, I'm saying
a chance.
assuming my
Oh.
party. I'm taking a
Let's give
hypothetical
Murkomen a chance.
scenario.
He's burning there.
Yes. What my brother said is, Rame, I want to tell you that as long as our 2010 constitution allowed people to contest as an independent candidate, then party loyal only comes in when you are elected. But as long as you are inside and you have the interest of the people,
Okay.
then party loyal is a thing of the past.
So here,
What I want to say now
it is not
is-
all about Punguza Mizigo. It's not
Now-
all about BBI. It's all about
no.
party loyalty.
Let me Let me say this. Now, Punguza Mzigo will benefit the people on ground. That is, it strengthens devolution. And the people who are on the ground are the MCAs. Again, we are not against the BBI. And if BBI comes up with an agenda that supports Wanjiku, we are going for it. We will go for it.
That is if.
If.
As we wait for the report.
As we wait for the report.
The Right Honorable Raila Odinga and ODM party are urging Kenyans that they should wait for the recommendations of the BBI,
Yes.
which they argue will midwife a more popular constitutional amendment
But now the
proposal.
question, Ram, comes in. Are
Yes.
we going to have 2 referendum?
That's the question. Then we will go for 2.
Are we going to have 2 referendums? If Punguza Mzigo initiative goes through in county assemblies,
And the BBI also goes through.
and PBI also goes through,
That
are we
is
going
an
to have 2
hypothetical
referendums?
scenario.
Why hypothetical?
But the question is, another answer is,
I think that's why they want to kill.
another
the
answer
disease.
is, no. Another answer is, Ram,
Yes.
if BBI comes up with an agenda
Mhm.
that is against the Wanjiku,
Mm.
then it's going nowhere.
But they
wait.
want, the
Well,
BBI was formed for the Wanjiku because of the handshake.
for the Wanjiku because of the handshake. And so we want to
I
wait
want
for
to reserve
the
my comment
recommendation.
until-
That is an
But
assumption.
Ram, let
It's
me
an assumption.
Yeah,
According to
before-
you, it's an
and-
assumption.
Until we get the details of what the BBI entails, it's still an assumption.
Yes.
Should we just merge the two? Punguza Mizigo, BBI.
It is not possible
they-
legally.
they-
It is not possible legally to merge the two because already the process has kick-started. We are waiting for the verdict of the county assemblies on the Punguza Mizigo bill.
Okay.
If 24 county assembly plus approve that bill, then it will have to go to the National Assembly and the Senate for consideration.
Are we not?
If the parliament, if both houses of parliament don't pass the bill, or one house passes and the other does not pass, then the question will go back to the people
Yes.
for determination.
For determination.
But at this stage, we cannot reverse the gear, we cannot amend the bill. But there are things I like in that bill. For example, the issue of positively varying the basic revenue share to the county government from 15, not less than 15. They talk about not less than 35. I like that idea because we need to have more resources going to the people.
Yes.
But there's something that I don't like. When you talk about making the wards to be the center of accelerated development, it is a good idea to entice, it's like a sweetener. You want to
Yeah.
entice the MCS to approve the bill. But there's something we are forgetting. In our democracy, there's something called the principle of separation of powers. How I wish even the CDF itself was removed from the management of MPs and be taken either to the national government or the county governments. We want the MPs to play their legislative role. The executive, which composes the county and the national government, to play the executive role.
Now, you know,
the judiciary to play the other role.
You know, Punguza Mizigo wants to
Punguza Mizigo is
put
talking
the
about
CDF. to the
they want to
practical-
remove the CDF and make the wards to be centers of accelerated development. That's what they talk about, which is not a bad idea. Development should go to mashinani, but that should not be the excuse of enticing the MCS to approve the bill, because the MCS should not be given the authority to run development projects. That should be a function of the county government. The MCS should be legislating, oversighting, and representing. The principle of separation of powers. That is something that we need to champion in
Ram.
this country.
Yes.
Where the problem is, I think anything with its advantage also has disadvantage. Where the problem is in Punguza Mzigo is the issue of representation. You cannot have a little number of representation from a county. If my MP now has failed to perform or to deliver on his promises during 2017 election, can you imagine him or her covering a larger territory? Will he or she deliver?
But now
That
the
cannot
problem,
happen.
the,
That is where the
the, the
problem
argument
is.
is this.
That is-
One person,
that
for
is where the
example,
problem is.
from where you come from,
Yes.
you have your ward
Yes,
representative.
yes.
You have your member of parliament.
Yes.
You have your
Women
women
rep.
representative,
Yeah.
women rep.
Yeah,
You
some
have your
counties have also, even constituencies have the nominated
We cannot
members
reduce
of
the number
nominated
of
member of parliament.
constituencies.
You have your governor. You have your senator. Is that over-representation in
We
itself?
cannot reduce the number of constituencies and so that we can have more resources in the county.
I think we.
In fact, we will be communicating issues.
No, let's not argue based on the performance, because we've seen other constituencies performing well. So that is, I think, is a personal
Yes.
initiative by your member of parliament.
I
Because
mean,
we've seen-
We cannot go for referendum because one region is not developed. That's
I
it.
mean, that is it. But what I mean, I don't argue because of development. I argue because of the larger territory
But
that
we-
will be
the-
represented.
the-
But what happens to the regions like the eastern regions? Or what happens to those places?
Even the MCs, some of the MCs from those regions cover larger area than even the MPs in Nairobi. So we should not argue based
But the
on
population
on
is
the-
very
But
low.
I think, Ram, if you look at even the current constitution, apart from the shareable revenue that goes to counties, the law has also created something called the equalization fund. And the equalization fund should benefit the areas that were previously marginalized,
Yes.
so that the level of development is accelerated to be at par to what is generally enjoyed to other parts of the country. So if it's an issue of bringing development to previously marginalized counties, then I think the law has already provided for the equalization fund. But the issue we're talking about is the Punguza Mizigo Bill, and you mentioned something to do with the BBI, and I wanted to make a statement there. My party has not made submissions to the BBI, and you know the life of BBI is coming to an end, simply because we believe the result of forming the BBI was not a structured national dialogue.
Yes.
Remember, we had this discussion here the other day when I came here, and we said that unlike 2007, where there was a national dialogue and reconciliation accord that brought together all the key political players, everybody was involved, from the then ODM Kenya, the ODM party, the PNU, and all those small parties. And that resulted to a national dialogue. And it was mediated by international players. And the result of that accord was taken to Parliament, and Parliament enacted something called the National Accord and Reconciliation Act of 2008. And it was entrenched to be part and parcel of the Constitution. In fact, the people of Kenya guaranteed that accord. They gave it a signature note. And you could see then if the President Kibaki could not consult Raila Odinga, the people of Kenya could say, could tell the President, consult the Prime Minister. But compared to the current BBI, the BBI was a result of two leaders whom we respect, but that dialogue was not structured. Two brothers retreated in a room, agreed on a few things, and they brought the BBI. They gazetted as a task force. There was no wide consultation. That's why you are seeing it is only Jubilee, through the party leader, that is the President, and Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister, who are seriously championing for this. If you listen to my party leader, His Excellency Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, talk about the BBI, he is talking about, because Onyo is the official opposition leader right now, you understand the principle.
He calls himself that.
No. The principle of parliamentary democracies in the world is that if you don't form government, automatically you are in the opposition. And ANC,
We have other parties like Ford Kenya.
but they are not
He-
coming out seriously. It is only ANC that, and through the party leader Musalia Mudavadi, who is saying
What about
not
the-
everybody can be in government.
His Excellency Wetangula also called himself
No, you
opposition, but
remember.
but anyway,
No, you remember we had. Let me put this clear. You remember we had NASA, and when some comrades in NASA, you know, Kalonzo and Raila, they joined Jubilee in the government. So ANC has remained outside, and my party leader is the official opposition leader because of that principle that I've just mentioned to you. And since we are playing an active opposition role, we have not been able to make submissions before the BBI because we believe that was not a structured dialogue. It did not involve as many political players. The people of Kenya have not guaranteed. And this is what Musalia has been saying, that we have had too much of the handshake. Can we have the handcuffs? Can we talk about the issues of corruption? How can we reduce the costs? How can we improve the economy so that as many young people are economically engaged in the economy? That's the things we are
And
talking
I
about.
think-
I want us to wrap up this
Yes.
this
let,
topic.
let me finish by saying this.
Yes.
I want to support him on some issues that BBI was formed, but it was not inclusive. The proponents of the handshake, that is, who came up with BBI, they never went beyond to include other stakeholders, other political players, in the talk to bring unity, to build bridges across the country, political bridges. So that is where the problem is in BBI. It was not inclusive. And so we expected after handshake things like reducing the issue of employed youth in this country could have risen up. But up to now, what
nothing.
people are doing is to talk about the BBI, is to talk about handshake. We cannot talk about handshake from 2018 to 2022. There are so many other things we should be discussing in between.
And remember,
enhancing the economy of this country.
Before you move on to the next topic, remember, BBI is not the first task force to have ever been formed to investigate issues of public interest. We have heard the Ndungu Land Commission, that its report has never been implemented. We have heard the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report. Its report has never been made even public. We don't even know its content. We have heard several other commissions of inquiry and task forces that have investigated various issues that are lying in the shelves that have never been implemented. That is something that I remember even the Jubilee government promised to do when they said they will form government in 2013. Implementation of those previously investigated reports by commissions and task forces. So I'm just assuming that the BBI will just be another task force that will recommend maybe a few changes here and there.
But they will not you believe it will not amount to anything?
It's not something exciting. Maybe they will focus on the positions. Kenyans don't want to expand, to create positions, or to go to a referendum to create positions with in mind that there's an individual who is going to occupy that position.
Okay, you've given references to other task forces, other initiatives that came in the past, and that their reports were either not made public or that they are
just lying idle.
They're just lying idle. What if BBI does it differently from your expectations?
By doing what?
Because it's politically driven and by two big political parties players.
He is politically driven.
No, the BBI. So that could be different. You know, the other task forces has always been formed either by just the government. And let me just clarify what you were saying. I think what the ANC is suffering from is the big brother or the big brother syndrome, where who the pride in the party. I think all the political parties, when I was still in Kanu, all the political parties were invited to make their submission so that it's inclusive. You know, when you're setting up a foundation, not everybody will be on the table. But now people are being invited to share their thoughts on what they feel should be the way forward for our country, because there are things that we have to address, my brother. Otherwise, we'll keep repeating.
I think he has now become the devil's advocate.
I want us to move forward.
Let me say this finally.
30 seconds.
Yes. What is in the public domain at the moment is BBI is there to expand executive. BBI is there to create position for individuals. So members of the public now are waiting for the report from BBI. And they will compare it with Punguza Mzigo.
There was a report that leaked for the BBI. I don't know whether you guys saw it.
Yes.
Though the BBI denied it. There's a report that leaked. And it was quite controversial. And
well, according to the chairman, he said that they have not yet given out their.
But it is a pointer.
Report.
It's, if you understand what we call deep state politics, it's a pointer to what is coming.
Now remember, the comments shared during this live broadcast are neither mine nor that of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. This is just as a disclaimer. And we just want to continue with the next topic, YT2.
Baba Yao.
Baba Yao, Mama Yao, and I had a joke, here there is Yao. So we have YT2, who is fighting, graft charges relating to a 588 million shilling road construction tender. Now, a section of the members of the county of Assembly of Kiambu have continued to exert pressure on the governor, saying that he should resign. There's a problem here. Should he resign? Well, you will answer that. Remember, the governor now says that he will continue to execute his mandate as the governor of Kiambu County. He will continue doing his role because he has executive powers as a governor, despite the court order barring him from office. And he says that, well, and I quote, "Executive powers are with me and not in the office or my official vehicle. There is no confusion about that. When I come to Kikuyu, I will tell those I need to meet where to meet me. When I go to Limuru, Thika or Kiambu, I will tell them where to meet me. County activities must go on. Actually, a lot of work is to be done in the sub-counties." Meaning, in his own argument, yes, he was barred from his accessing his office in Kiambu County, but he will not be operating from there. He can also operate from different locations within Kiambu County. So that's another issue here. Is it contempt of court? Should he resign? Your thoughts on this? Let me start with you, Murkomen.
I think the issue of corruption is what we are fighting in this country, and we have been fighting since long. But on the issue of Babayao, I think the law gives a chance that you are innocent until proven guilty. So his matter is still in the law, in the court of law. But on the issue of resigning, why should he resign?
Corruption.
Corruption.
He's in
Has he
court.
been proven guilty?
You believe he should not resign?
Why should he resign?
Makarima?
Two, let me finish first.
Okay, okay.
Two, I agree with him that he can run the operation of the county from every part of his county. Because an office is just a structure. But now, if the court proves that he is guilty of the allegation made against him, then I agree he can resign. Yes.
If proven guilty.
If proven guilty, he has to step aside. And that is how we should be fighting corruption.
I remember what the president said, that if you are taken to court on matters corruption, you should do something. In his own words. That's what he said.
That is what he said. But we should
I think you also listened to
I
that,
listened to what
he
the
said
president
during the
said.
State
But
of
we
the
should
Nation address.
differentiate. You know, there are some other public servants who are not holding elective positions. And those who are holding elective positions. So what he is supposed to do is not supposed to go to office, or is not supposed to interfere with any other county staffs, but he has to operate from anywhere. Because he's still in charge, he has the powers. The powers has not been handed over to.
You're talking about being in charge.
Yes.
He was barred from office.
Yes.
Are we talking about the office, the structure, the building,
Yes.
or the office, the one that was given by the people to him in terms of the powers,
You know,
and the roles that he has?
When he
as a
took an
governor?
oath to represent the people of Kiambu, that is the power. The power does not belong. The power is not in the office. The power is with him.
But
I think we need to separate something here that he's talking about. If you listen to my friend speaking the previous segment and him speaking right now, he's speaking from two different mouths. But anyway, that has been. If you listen to his statement previously about corruption, he's appearing to be on a verge of almost defending the corrupt.
No, no. No, let me say this.
Now,
I began by
almost
saying
on a-
we support the war against corruption, and we have been fighting corruption. But now, how can you leave an office if you have not been proven guilty?
Ram, two things.
That
here.
is his
Yes,
argument, not
yes.
that he's supporting corruption.
No,
not-
it's almost a thin line. I would
A
say
thin
that.
line, very thin line.
On the verge of almost.
Okay.
Now, there are two things here. There's something I like about Punguza Mzigo. The aspect of putting the timelines on how cases of corruption should be handled. In fact, Punguza Mzigo talks about there is a cap, I think it is 14 days, or when you are mentioned on corruption, investigation and the cases should be heard and determined and concluded. There's a timeline. That is something, that is the way to go. We should be able to execute that thing, because if an elected leader is investigated or, allegedly involved in corruption, those cases should be expedited so that we know the outcome of the investigation as quick as possible. And corruption is a serious menace that has affected our country. We need a speedy resolution. But there's something here. Some of the governors have completely misunderstood devolution. If you look at the fourth schedule of the Constitution, the fourth schedule clearly distributes the functions between the national government and the county governments. If you look at the national government, has 35 functions. The county governments have 14 functions. If you look at some of the programs the governor of Kiambu is implementing. There is this program of rehabilitating the drunkards, Sijika Soba. That is a completely misplaced project that is wobbling up almost, I think it was $1 billion, from what I've been reading in the newspapers. $1 billion shillings being used to rehabilitate drunkards at Kasoba, and there are other pressing priorities the county government of Kiambu can do for the people. The issues of road, the issues of health.
Is that a useless project?
I think it is a useless
no,
program.
You think the governor has useless projects in
No,
Kiambu
It's a
County?
useless project.
I don't think
considering
so.
the amount of money that is being used.
No, I think every county has unique challenges. And some of the things that you have to do, you know, before you build a road for somebody who will not even walk on that road, you have to make sure that this person is sober to be able to walk on that road. So it's just having the priorities. What we have as the people,
you know that one is vis-a-vis other projects. Even if it's education, you cannot build schools until there are some
yeah.
Ram, what I can-
So you're saying that first of all deal with the drunkards.
yeah, so that they
For
have
1
children.
billion, 1 billion in the financial year.
Let me, Ram,
Let me
Interesting argument.
let me say
Yeah,
this.
let him finish.
Let me finish. So what we have here is a structured way of looking at things. That we should be education, roads, blah blah blah.
We're talking
blah,
about
blah. But we
priorities.
should look at every county has a unique priority. So if your
Is
priority
Kasoba a unique priority?
for Kiambu County, they can defend themselves. But let me amplify what my brother was talking about. You know, we are talking the animal kingdom. Then there are those animals who are more equal than others. When a policeman, when a county officer is caught stealing or involved in corruption, then the governors, the people are strongly into him resigning or her resigning. But when the governor is caught in such a scandal, then we are with the people, we are supporting that, and then we complain about corruption. So talking about Kiambu County, I will not talk about Babayao because I think that is just a fraction of what is happening in other counties. I think what we need to do as the people is to support the fight against corruption so that we can have living examples of what is happening. We don't have living examples. That's why the governors can be involved in shoddy tenders, in shoddy deals, and then walk away with it. So if we have living examples, I don't say that Babayao should be the living example, but we should have living examples so that when you are doing anything, we can have a reference point.
I would like us to refer to this. Let's talk facts. Yeah, this is what we talk about here on Political Trends. We have an act called the Anti-Corruption and Economics
Crimes
Act.
Act.
Yes.
Yeah, you know of it.
Yes. Yes.
Section 62 of that act. And I would like to read directly from it. I have it on my phone here. Says, Part 1, a public officer who is charged with corruption or economic crime shall be suspended at half pay with effect from the date of the charge. And that is what some were saying, that he should be given half pay. Now
the difference is
two, a suspended public officer who is on a half pay shall continue to receive the full amount of any allowances. 3, the public officer ceases to be suspended if the proceedings against him are discontinued or if he is acquitted. Section 63 says this, and this is where it gets interesting. A public officer who is convicted of corruption or economic crime shall be suspended without pay with effect from the date of the conviction pending the outcome of any proposal. And there is a part 5 says that the section does not apply with respect to a conviction or occurred before this act came to operation. And part 64 says that a person who is convicted of corruption or economic crime shall be disqualified from being elected or appointed as a public officer. Well, it continues. You can go check it out online. This act, do we really follow what we have according to our constitution?
several things. Number one, there is a difference between a public officer and a state officer.
Hey.
There is a clear, in fact, you can check it out in the Constitution. There's a part that talks about general provisions and then it explains some definitions. Most of, actually elected leaders like governors are state officers. Public officers mostly are those who are appointed
So this one does not apply
Then-
to the governor.
No, no, I'm not saying that. I'm coming there. If you look at the Constitution itself, that is an act of Parliament. The Constitution, under the Bill of Rights, advocates for the principle of presumption of innocence until proven otherwise. In this case, there are allegations that have been leveled against the governor for having misappropriated the county funds. Those allegations are before the court. And Justice Ngugi Mumbi set a jurisprudence that is now being used, that the judge who was listening to Waititu's case used. In fact, the judge quoted the ruling of Mumbi Ngugi as the reasons of barring Waititu from accessing the physical office. That's why we're having an issue of differentiating between the office of the governor and the physical offices of the county. It was for the reason of not him going to interfere with witnesses.
Exactly.
Because some of the witnesses are in the county. The accounting officers, the chief officers,
Isn't
the
it also
ministers.
about his roles as a governor?
You know, I mean,
That the office is in jeopardy in terms
the order,
of...
I mean, the order of barring him from accessing the office was to protect witnesses, but it does not bar him from executing his duties outside the office. That is the difference. Now, what you've just quoted is true, and it should be implemented. But the Constitution also talks about the principle of being assumed innocent until proven guilty. So there is a clear. It is only the courts who can determine this. These things. But why I said I like that part of the Punguza Mizigo bill that puts a timeline on corruption cases being heard maybe within a month. They are concluded within a month. That is the way we should go. So that, you know, we should also not instigate political cases. Once a case has started, assuming Ram is a governor, somebody comes up with a case, and once you are in court, you have to step aside, and then the case prolongs into the next general election. You will not have served that county, and you will have created a lacuna or a gap in the county as much as we have deputy governors. But I can assure you, once this first term of Uhuru, you know, Uhuru is a devolution president, the person who oversaw devolution, most governors will find themselves in jail. In fact, after this term, most governors are going to find themselves in jail on the basis of the audit reports and on the basis of corruption allegations after their terms.
I'm looking forward to
It happened in Nigeria. In Nigeria, most governors, when devolution came in Nigeria, more than 15 governors in Nigeria were jailed after their term. They are currently
that
serving
happened
jail.
in Nigeria.
Not,
So
not
far,
in Kenya. Yeah. I talked about the animal kingdom. Yeah.
not in Kenya, but
Yeah.
in Nigeria.
It can happen.
In Nigeria, it can happen, but in Kenya, unless we adopt the Punguza Mizigo bill,
Which has issues.
which
Not
they
really. I
have
just
issues
mentioned that
with.
I've even admitted I like some parts in the bill.
Do you think that the fight against corruption as a country, we are really dealing with it the way it should be dealt with? And even as talk about corruption, remember, the president has his own Big Four agenda, and we have the fight against corruption, which affects the Big Four agenda. Look at the Arer Kimaro dams and issues to do with every governor. Remember, Governor Waititu is not the only governor who's in court when it comes to corruption allegations.
And he's not the only corrupt governor. He's not the only corrupt governor.
Are you saying he is?
That's not the problem.
No.
There are allegations of corruption. There are allegations of corruption against him that are yet to be proven.
I've not fixed him. He's only telling me, but
What I'm saying,
if you're saying
let me
No, but
say, let
you
me
were
say
just
this
saying
now.
that most governors
Let me
are
say
corrupt.
this that
I've been involved in
I'm not
corruption.
in a position to judge him,
yes.
but the allegation made against him, but it has not been proven that he's corrupt.
But
So, but what is in
with
the
that
public
trend,
domain?
we can say that in most counties we see the corruption cases,
Of
rampant
course.
corruption
Of
cases.
course.
Yeah.
As he said, as what Akadima said, our governors, most of them are corrupt, but their investigation has not been done. We
Now,
believe so.
Ram, there's something that we need to get. You know, have you seen the situation in Taita Taveta, where the governor has a difference? There's an impasse on the issue of passing the budget between the MCS want 11% of the total budget as ward development funds, and they want to oversee it. Well, the governor wants to implement his programs. The reason why there is that kind of impasse between the counties and even the county assemblies, and it has even led to the issue of the dispute of the division of revenue bill that is affecting most of the workers. If you go right now in the counties, workers are not being paid. Counties are not functioning because there is a dispute on the division of revenue bill that is still pending before Parliament. The reason why earlier I talked about some programs like Car Sober being useless is that if you look at within the functions of the county, most governors have completely misunderstood devolution. Like you can imagine there's a county that is putting 300 million to uplift an airstrip. Yes, it is good to do some of those infrastructural projects, but that is not a function of the county. Yet a governor will allocate 300 million to uplift an airstrip, which is not his function. You will find
misplaced priorities.
you will find
let me say, whatever, anything good to people, that is devolution.
No, I don't think so.
Anything good for the people is
No,
devolution.
for the
no,
people
no,
is
no.
devolution.
That is not a good statement. The fourth schedule of the Constitution has distributed functions, and money is allocated to counties and national government based on functions. Actually, the principle of devolution is the cost follows the function. You devolve the function first, then you devolve the money to perform the function. That's how the money is arrived at.
But what is happening even in the counties is just a reflection of what is happening in the national government. We have misplaced priorities. So it's what even the counties are. They can do any projects anyhow, yeah. But I don't approve setting up an airstrip when the schools are not built, when the kids are learning under the trees. Yeah.
On Mondays, we have Eyes on Politics every Monday, and one of my panelists said that the governor should resign.
Waititu.
Yes.
In the spirit of giving paving way for investigation, and also showing that he is innocent, he should just do the honorable thing, take the political responsibility, and step aside. And stepping aside is not equal to resigning. It is just giving time for speedy investigation and conclusion of the case. He should not resign. But if he wants to resign, if he feels the weight is too much on him, he can resign.
So he should step aside, therefore the deputy governor takes
Yes,
his
but
place.
but the precedent that has been set by the court is that you step aside. You give that is something that has happened before. Public officers and state officers are supposed to step aside to give room for investigation. So I think Governor Waititu can step aside and give room for the deputy governor to hold as the case is being concluded.
Moving forward, next thing, because this is all about political trends. We have a statement made by the governor of Nairobi County, Mike Sonko, and he said that with reference to the late Member of Parliament, Ken Okoth, our condolences to the family. When it comes to the nomination of members of county assemblies, he said that the Member of Parliament, Ken, had referred the governor to one lady, and this is with reference to her being nominated, which the governor did that. But now it puts to question here, what are the criteria for nominating members of county assemblies? And not just members of county assemblies, anyone when it comes to nomination. Is it because this is my friend, this is my family, this is my brother, my sister? What should the criteria be, even considering the constitution?
I think in most cases, the slots are too few, and they're used for rewards. So in most cases, in most political parties, I will not quote any political party, but in most political parties, it's a reward. People use them for the guys who funded their campaigns, their close relatives, their wives, friends, so there are no well-stated criteria on how to nominate. And we've seen people even working so hard for political parties, but at the end of the day, they are pushed aside, and names or even the people or that are getting those positions are not even guys who even participated or contributed to what the party achieved. So I think we should have a well-stated criteria on how to nominate, because especially young people, we get disadvantaged when it comes to nomination, and especially for the big political parties, that we are only allowed to put posters and wait for anything that will come after.
But
so
then,
young people.
But then that's a problem in itself.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Do we nominate people who are our friends then? Because now it means that it is not all about accountability. It is not all about what you can do for the people, what you can do in that position. Then it's about whom you know. Yes,
Ram, the statements by the governor, we, I don't know the term that I can call it, but the procedure is very clear on how to nominate member of county assembly or member of national assembly or the senate or persons representing youth and women and person with disability. Advertisement is done first. Then people are requested to apply. And then the applicants goes through the list. The list is gone through by the county election board and I think National Executive Council in charge of those National Assembly, Senate, and persons with disability. But now the question here is the powerful people with influence. That is where the problem arises. You are given a position where you don't deserve, but a person with qualification and somebody somewhere who deserves it are left out. That is where the problem arises. Influence within political parties.
And that's why Punguza Mzigo want to abolish the nominations because they are not
So
really.
that is why we want to support
they're not really
Punguza Mzigo.
But some of the nominated slots also, they say that it infringes on their, capacity to deliver, because here we are talking about representation also. Nathaniel.
I think I want to agree with what my two brothers here are talking about. The issue of party lists is a contentious issue. It has been a contentious issue. It did not start the other day. It is something that has been long-standing way before. And it is an issue of political parties self-checking themselves to up the game and nominate people who can represent competently before the various forums they are nominating them to. If it's about nominating somebody to the National Assembly or County Assembly, it should be based on, of course, one, somebody who has worked for the party, and two, somebody who has the competencies to be able to represent not only the party's policies, but also represent the wider interest of the people. That is something that has been very contentious. But if you look at the statements that the governor of Nairobi made during the funeral service of Ken Okoth, I think that was quite unfortunate. There are things that should be left unsaid. There are things that should, especially when you want to pay respect to the dead, you don't mention some things in public. Even if those things happened, like nominating somebody who was related to Ken, those are things that should be silent, in just giving respect to the person who has departed us. So I think it was unfortunate. It was, to some extent, a reckless statement that should not have been said. But going forward, I think it is an issue, especially on the nominations. It is an issue that needs to be addressed between political parties, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, and IEBC on the issue of arriving at persons to be nominated. But I'm telling you, as long as our politics is political party based and political parties have the powers to nominate or send the list to IEBC of nomination, parties will still, the party top leadership has a larger say on who is to be nominated. And IEBC just receives the list, and it will nominate the people who are in the list.
Then it's not about who is qualified.
In as much as
It
they
is-
say
it is
that
an
It's
issue.
about who knows who in this.
So it is
political
we
party.
should lay
Quite sad
emphasis.
indeed in this country.
Yes, we need to lay emphasis on political parties maturing and self-checking themselves. It is that simple.
And
If Jubilee nominated the person that is mentioned, then it is Jubilee Party that should have checked their list. Probably, and this is something that is a trend. You've seen previously Secretary Generals of political parties nominating, because Secretary Generals of political parties are custodians of the parties. Secretary Generals have a larger say in preparing the list and signing the list. I think it should be escalated, maybe within a political party, that before a party list is forwarded to IEBC, the National Executive Council of that party should approve that list before it is forwarded, so that we are assuming that the National Executive Committee or Council of that party has representation of the youth, women, and other people in the party. So in that case, there will be wide consensus before the list is passed on to the IEBC.
Yes. In as much as they say that IEBC is in charge of it, but IEBC is silent. The final say it lies within the party. But the problem with the party is they don't go through. They don't give procedure and how to nominate procedure on how to nominate these persons. You see, they finally nominate those people whom they know, but they don't go to an extent and find out how much has this person contributed to the progress of the party.
When it comes to what's trending this morning, we have the Judicial Service Commission. It is trending this morning on Twitter, and this takes us back to what we were talking about earlier concerning corruption. Remember, it was on Sunday that Justice Ojwang
was cleared.
Yeah, he was cleared, and they say that he can continue doing his job. He has worked for so many years as a judge in this country, but it put to question here the accountability of the JSC. Is it credible? Because now the credibility of the JSC now was put into question, even based on these presidents that we have so far.
The animal kingdom. There are those who are more equal than others. So you know, these people have worked together, and some even of the members of the JSC have had cases. Some of them have been lawyers, have had cases, have interacted closely with the system, and you know, in our system, the reality is if you don't have somebody in the system, then you're out. So it's just part of keeping the big brotherhood. So
then isn't this a way of harboring corruption?
I'm not saying that Justice Ojwang was guilty, but I'm just saying what reality, generally what happens in our system. We expect less from those committees to come and destroy one of their own. So they'll always find a way of defending and protecting the brotherhood in those circles.
Even within the courts.
You know, Ram,
quite interesting. Within the court, you
yes.
protect someone who is your own, regardless of whether they're guilty or not.
And we are talking about political trends, and you know, I like being as candid as possible. I was lucky to have participated in the elections of the LSK male representative to JSC. I will not mention which candidate, but I participated in those elections. There's something interesting. The JSC is a constitutional commission. It has been, the people of Kenya have donated a section of their powers to that JSC to exercise in overseeing judicial matters. I think, in my opinion, the JSC did the correct thing. First of all, in recommending to the president to form a tribunal to investigate Justice Ojwang, which arose as a result of a petition from, I think, a group of individuals who petitioned JSC. That was the correct procedure. I don't think there is ill motive. Now the committee has acquitted Justice Ojwang and said that there is no evidence, or the evidence that was adduced was not weighty enough to recommend for his removal. I don't read sinister motive.
And but the same thing is normally, the same statement or a similar statement is given when it comes to corruption. That's evidence here.
But I'm the one who has been advocating for the principle of presumption of innocence. I think I've been consistent in the show on that regard.
Okay.
The point is, you remember the petition, the NASA petition, the presidential petition that was there just after the first presidential election. And Justice Ojwang participated in that petition. He took a dissenting view. There were the majority who overthrew the petition, who upheld, who nullified the election. You remember that. Part of the politics in JSC is as a result of the politics,
the national politics,
that the bench that decided the presidential petition in the 2017 petition by Raila and Kalonzo Musyoka. So it is not funny to see some of these justices. You remember the famous statements is that we shall revisit the judiciary. There are sections of the public who will want to interpret those statements. We shall revisit the revisit remarks to interpret that it informs part of the politics in JSC and in the judiciary. But there's something, if you look at other jurisdictions in the world, there is a way they have dealt they have come up with a decisive way of differentiating politics from the judiciary and the other arms of government. Like if you go to the Britain, the United Kingdom, the judiciary does not participate in making decisions, especially on constitutional or legal or election issues. The judiciary is purely confined on civil and criminal and procedural matters. The issues of determining election petitions, the judiciary has been drained of its powers in the UK.
But now, in this country, how can we sieve out the Judicial Service Commission so that it can work independently, regardless of the politics that are there in this country? Do we have a way of having court cases going through without peddling of other parties? I remember Mheshimiwa Martha Karua
yesterday, yeah.
Martha Karua gave a very interesting statement concerning the judiciary, and yesterday she said that in as much as she respects the order that was given by the court, by the High Court, but she feels as though justice was not served. Can we have justice being served by the system within the courts, regardless of the politics that happen in other parts of the system in government?
You know, most of these positions are politically driven. So you'll see, even whenever we have an appointment, people will run and look at the second name, like which area or which affiliation. So if we align ourselves with the core values, which are our core values? Do we really have core values? Now, from the core values, it's when we're able to get people with integrity. We don't have to question the second name or the third name or the region before you are elected into or appointed into those positions. That's when we now have serious work and independency. But right now, any appointment that is made by the president, there's a certain way that even him, look at it. Which side are they likely to align to when it comes to the matters of serving our people, which might be 2 or 3 people. So yeah, so that is the challenge we have.
I think judiciary in this country has not played its independent role as an outside arm of the other arms of government. What they want to do is, I think a lot of influence is done, or a lot of influence is being witnessed from other powerful arm of the government. But as he said, JSC should exercise its independent role. It's like what they normally say, you cannot sit on your own case, in reference to Ojwang case. That is, I see a lot of politics being played within JSC. Yes.
Now, Ram, there's something interesting that we need to know, and I want to compare jurisdictions. Like in Kenya, and I want to agree to some extent with them. In Kenya, we talk about the 3 arms of government, the principle of separation of powers. But do you know that the executive arm, which includes the presidency, exercises soft power over the rest of, the rest arms of government, especially the judiciary is the biggest casualty, because the judiciary depends on parliament and the executive funding, the hiring of judges to some extent. For example.
But can it work independently? That is my problem.
That's why
can the judicial system work independently?
I'm trying to bring
if we
out
give it a try, I think if it's the mindset that we have that it cannot work independently. That's why it has to be attached to other arms of the government.
But I think the judiciary has shown willingness to work independently. Like, can you imagine our Supreme Court was the first one to nullify a presidential election in Africa and the second one in the world?
Is that a good thing in itself? I don't know.
That it is something. It is a decision that was unprecedented. It is something that has never been experienced in Africa. There are people who will come to learn from that ruling.
Many accuse the judiciary of being corrupt.
No, okay.
That's why right now, this morning, it is trending on Twitter that it is corrupt.
Inherently, corruption pervades all sectors of the economy. It pervades all sectors of public service. It is something that we need to deal with as a nation. But the point I was making earlier is that the presidency or the executive arm of government exercises some soft power. That's why our system is a presidential system. If you go to other jurisdictions like the UK, let me use that example, it is a parliamentary system where parliament has sovereignty. Do you know that in the UK, the judiciary cannot declare a law made by parliament unconstitutional? because it is parliament, they have created what we call parliamentary sovereignty. It is parliament that passes a law, and it is the same parliament or a future parliament that can undo the law, but not the judiciary declaring a law made by parliament unconstitutional. Therefore, in fact, it is a clear manifestation that depending on the system of government where we are operating in, for us in Kenya, the executive arm still has a larger sway on most of the decisions. But on the issue of corruption in the judiciary, in the executive, in parliament, it is something we need to deal holistically as a nation.
At Wangari on Twitter says, am I the only one wondering why Justice Mwilu is being attacked every time? There must be some political agenda against her. This is too much. At Polycarp Igade, he says, favoritism or not, Baraza's case was determined very fast and she had to quit. Meanwhile, Mwilu's case is dragging in the failed system. Hashtag shameless JSC.
Just look at the lawyers of Mwilu. Who is representing Mwilu in the cases?
It is because of her capacity as the Deputy Chief Justice.
Not really. Just look at the way she ruled in the presidential petition.
Okay.
And look at the statements we shall revisit and all those manner of things.
So it's because of what she did before.
You know, I'm just saying, I'm just pointing,
pointers. Yeah.
Pointers, so it must be somewhere around that area.
There.
But it's also you see even her case has so many lawyers that are involved. So there's still the animal kingdom. Yeah, they're protecting one of their own, and the way he's saying it means automatically that maybe Justice Mwilu was on one side, or it's assumed that she's supporting one side. That's why that is happening.
You know, in Kenya, we fear so much whatever the political class will say against us. You see? So the way he said, it might be a revisit something, as he says.
Yes.
But what I can say is judiciary should stand firm and exercise its duties, its constitutional mandate. But they should not fear. They should not fear the political class. Yes.
When the DPP came out and said that there is a problem within the system, that before you take something to court, you should find out whether the evidences are there, that we should do due diligence.
Yes.
Yeah. Some say that should not be his role, that he's actually doing public relations, he's doing PR for nothing.
No, the DPP, it is his role. The DPP can order the DCI to investigate on criminal issues. Actually, the DPP orders the DCI to investigate and bring a file. Then upon receiving a file on an investigation, the DPP commences or institutes, court proceedings against that particular individual. But I think on the solutions of ending, giving the judiciary the independence, maybe at some point when we are having the discussion of amending the constitution, we should find a way of putting a minimum cap on the funding to the judiciary by saying maybe the judiciary will be allocated not less than maybe 2% of the national income.
And by that,
so that it is mandatory. You know, the fear is that if the judiciary is not towing the line, Parliament can starve the judiciary of funding, the executive can reduce the funding of the judiciary to play politics and to ensure the judiciary toes the line, especially depending on who is the Chief Justice then. And you know, the Chief Justice chairs the JSC, which is in charge of the judiciary.
So here we talk about limiting the funding.
Not limiting the funding, because the judiciary is scared that other arms of the government, Parliament while passing the budget, and the executive while allocating the budget, could starve the judiciary, which is an independent organ, and other commissions funding. So for the judiciary, we can put a minimum threshold. The same way we have said that county governments shall not receive not less than 15% of the national revenue. We can say that maybe the judiciary should not receive not less than 2% of the national revenue. In that case, whether the Parliament likes it or not, they must allocate funding to the judiciary. That is the only way we can be able to give the judiciary some independence, so that they are not scared that we will not get funds if we don't rule this way or if we don't execute a particular agenda.
You know, that's an allegation still. At some point, every court case has a problem when it comes to the verdicts given. Maybe someone might fear, if I rule in favor of this person, it might go well or badly for me. There is a problem within the system. Even these court cases against all these governors.
It's because every case, everything in this country is politicized. Everything is politicized.
Then are we politicizing it?
I think the way my brother is saying, you know, in most cases, the politicians or the political arm of the government get away with it because of the arm twisting. They use those small powers that they have to arm twist the judiciary, to arm twist other arms of the government, even the president or even the county government. So I think what we need to do is just have a well-stated way of funding, so that they become independent, so they don't really rely on the verdicts of the parliament.
Now, as you comment on this, when it comes to the corruption allegation against the governor, Governor Waititu, what do you think, or what is your expectation concerning this? I know it's in court, but your thoughts on this? Yes.
Governor Waititu. I think the court we can hear the final verdict from the court. But he can still exercise his duties, his constitutional duties, wherever he is.
Aendelee na kazi.
Aendelee na kazi.
Wakadema,
But what I can say
aendelee na
is,
kazi.
aendelee na kazi. But he's not supposed, you know, there is a difference between to resign and not to appear in county offices. Because what is supposed to be, what is meant there is, he should not be around so that he might interfere with the witnesses. Because he's in charge of everything.
He's in charge of the county.
He's the boss. And whatever he can say to his juniors can interfere the case.
And that brings us an end to political trends this morning. We have come to the end of this show. Keep it KBC Channel 1. We just want to hand you over to the National Assembly. Remember, this is where agenda are set, where documentations are proposed, bills are taken to the National Assembly. Stay tuned to KBC even as we find out what are our members of parliament saying. This is KBC Channel 1. May God bless you. God bless the work of your hands. My name is Ram Aguko.